Riffical Records presents the East-West Vinyl Analysis with your hosts Mark Anthony Kay and Ken Keenan. Greetings, friends, and welcome to the East-West Vinyl Analysis, episode number 7. We are back and have finally made our commitment for one episode a month. So here we are, and once again, I am joined by my fellow podcaster on the West Coast in lovely San Francisco Bay Area, Mr. Ken Keenan. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How you doing, Mark?
Good. So, on this lovely long weekend, Easter weekend, we've decided that it's in the best interest of us and our fellow vinyl community members to talk about vinyl records. What better thing to talk about on Good Friday? So, what we're going to do this week, this episode, is we're going to talk about 3 records again. But what we decided to do is to go through our collections and pick one album that's very recent, from 2018 or 2017, if we don't have something that's from 2018. Then another record from in between somewhere, a record that we feel that's important to look at, or one that we really enjoy from the middle era of our collection, and then the oldest record that we have in our collection, or one of the oldest ones in our collection, and one that has some sort of meaning to us, whether it's monetary or some other reason. So we're going to do that for you today. I hope you enjoy it. I think this is going to be a lot of fun because it's something that we've never touched on yet. And I think it'll go very well. So I guess the first question is, who's going to go first?
I don't know. Flip a coin.
Okay, so let's do a...
Oh, okay.
Do you want to flip? Okay, so here we go. I have a pick from Podcast Rock City.
All right.
Logo on one side and names of the podcasters on the other.
There you go. Okay.
I will just flip it up, and whatever happens, happens. Okay.
We got to pick.
Oh, wait a minute. We didn't decide. Okay, sorry.
So.
Okay, so what do you want?
I'll do the logo side up.
Logo side. Okay, here we go. And it is the name side up. Okay. So I guess I'll go first.
There you go.
Okay. So, with that in mind, 2018 is here, as we all know. And we are just about to start the 4th month of the year, which is April. Now, still very early in the year, but every once in a while, there'll come a year where you already know early on that there's been a record that's been released that in your mind, and maybe in the minds of several others, this album already comes across as a record that you can easily say might be the album of the year already for you, and for a lot of other people that I've talked to. Now, I heard the hype. I followed it along when they were talking about this album, and I was hoping, because I really love this band, and I'm pleased to say that the hype was real. It held up to all the hype, and I have to say, this easily right now, hands down, is the best record of 2018 right now. It's going to have to take something really big to knock this out of my numero uno position for album of the year for 2018. What am I talking about? Some of you might already know, and probably saying, yeah, I know, just hold it up. So I'm going to hold it up, and that is Judas Priest, Firepower. Now, this album had a lot of hype behind it for many reasons. They were saying, they've heard, certain people heard songs coming out of the studio and saying that it sounded great. Also, a big factor was they decided to do something very interesting this time as far as production goes. They decided to go with 2 producers this time instead of one being a very new school metal producer who has shaped a lot of bands' sound into some really powerful stuff. And I'm talking about Andy Sneap, and he's done a lot of records I've really loved. I mean, he's done Megadeth's more recent stuff. He's done Nevermore albums. He's done so many records from the 2000 era and onward that I absolutely love, and they all sound fantastic. You can put them in your car and blast the hell out of it, and you know, people go running and hiding in their houses when they hear it. So, and I love those kind of albums. And the other great thing that they did is that they rehired a producer that I worked with them for a long time, and Tom Allom. Now, Tom Allom was responsible for a lot of their back catalog, like British Steel, you know, Screaming for Vengeance, Defenders of the Faith. Now, I kind of got the feeling that what happened here is that they brought in Tom to help them recapture their old school vibe of their writing, and they got Andy Sneapin to sonically make it relevant for this time period. So it's like one guy to help them make the writing fantastic, and the other guy to make it sound amazing. And when they blended that together, they just hit it way out of the park. I mean, I don't think the ball's landed yet. Kind of hit it out of the park. So, and it's a double album. I'll show a little bit more in case. I'm sure everybody's probably seen this being shown 100,000 times already, but you know, there's the gatefold. There's the back. And then I'll pull out just one here, just to show you how it is. It's, you know, the standard lyrics on both sides, because there are quite a few songs on here, which is interesting, you know. Here you have the label, and on the other side they have a kind of really cool.
So
See that okay?
This, yeah, looks good. Yeah, Alex. Is it a double vinyl?
Yeah, it's a double vinyl.
Okay. Yeah.
Mainly because, you know, there are so many songs on here, and that's the first thing that I was a little bit concerned about when I first heard about this record. I mean, there's 8 and 6. There's 14 songs on this record. Now, me being somebody who's also involved in music and writing and so on and so forth, this to me would be a red light. I'd be like, 14 songs. You know, we're talking about like, you know, like Kiss, you know, Hot in the Shade kind of thing. Like, you know, too many songs. You know,
right.
There could be a lot of filler in here. You know, but they really made this record all great stuff. There's no filler in this, and that's really, really, really hard to do on a record with 14 songs on it. Usually there's got to be some filler in there if you're going to make the record that long, but not with this. I'm telling you, I don't know how big a fan of Judas Priest you are, Ken, but this is a really great record. I would highly recommend it. I mean, I'm almost at the point with this where I would say, you know, if you don't know this band well enough, this could be a possible entry point album.
Right. I do like Judas Priest. I'm not a heavy into Judas Priest. I don't have every album or anything like that. I have some. But what would you say the music is closest to in their past catalog of albums?
Well, I'd say that it's kind of like it's hard to say. I mean, it has elements of so many things in it. I mean, there's moments in it that remind you of Painkiller. There's moments in it that remind you of Screaming for Vengeance, where there's stuff like that's a little bit more, not as
More
like there isn't really.
riffy, or
Yeah, a lot of riffy stuff. There isn't very many songs that are like incredibly fast, like Painkiller stuff.
Right.
But there's a lot of really heavy stuff, a lot of really cool mid-tempo stuff. And what's really cool about these songs is that there's a lot of songs that have a lot of different parts in it. It isn't just like verse, chorus, guitar solos, and out. They have like a breakdown parts. They have a lot of cool parts where it drops down a bit and Rob sings. And that's the other thing that I have to stress really strongly is that this is probably Rob Halford's best vocal album he's done since Painkiller. Easily. I mean, he's singing so good on this. I was impressed. Like, I couldn't even believe it. I thought this, like, he must have drank some voodoo liquid or something, because it's unbelievable for a man somebody in his late 60s like that who can sing like that. It's just incredible. And another thing that just, talking, this is strictly from a production geek side of things. The other thing that's very rare that's happened on this record too is that Andy Sneap, who was credited as production with Tom Allom on here as well, he also engineered it, and he also mixed, and he also mastered this record. Now that's usually very rare. The man who usually mixes it nowadays doesn't usually master it unless his name's Mark Anthony K, because I seem to do everything on my records. But that's somewhat of necessity, but also because I want to. But it's not very common to see that where a guy is put to mix the record and to master it, and it didn't hurt it at all whatsoever. It sounds incredible. Again, I think that the trick in this was having Tom Allom involved, because I think he really knew the band, knew what made them popular and what their strengths were, and got them to go and rethink that and bring these elements into a 2018 light. And Andy Sneap helped shape it into a 2018 sounding record. So that is my pick for 2018 record.
Well, that's cool. I'm gonna have to listen to that. Check out some of the samples and see how I feel about that. But if it's as good as you say it is, I'm probably gonna get it.
I think you'll really enjoy it. I honestly do.
Because my favorite one is Screaming for Vengeance, that album. So
yeah, that's incredible.
So okay, well, cool, good pick. All right, so for mine, my pick from the 2017-18 era, and mine's gonna be 2017 pressing. And what it is, if I can get it here, it was, and since we're coming up close by to, Record Store Day is coming up for 2018 here, so this is kind of related to that. Since this is a 2017 Record Store Day release, and it is the Cars Live at the Agora. It's 78. Yep, 1978 live. So you don't think of the Cars having live albums, and I don't think they've had a real live album. Maybe I can't even remember. But this one is basically right when we're starting out, and this has all the songs. I mean, from the first album. I mean, it's like one after another. Good Times Roll, Bye Bye Love, Night Spots, I'm in Touch with the World, My Best Friend's Girl, Moving in Stereo, All Mixed Up. I think Take What You Want to a different song. You're All I've Got Tonight, Don't Stop, Just What I Needed, huge song, and a couple others. So this one I wanted to get because I didn't have. I like the Cars, and I didn't have anything that was live, and not go out there and buy a bootleg. So I guess this is kind of a infamous one that has been known about, that they finally did an official release on at the Agora. Now, so this was 2017 Record Store Day. I don't know how many they pressed of this one. I should have looked that up, but it's probably, I'm going to say 3,000 maybe. I don't know. That's a guess. 3,000. It could have been. It could be less. I don't know. But it's It's two vinyls. And I'm going to miss my sleeves. So what we'll like about this is, well, here's the label. You can see it there.
Very nice.
Yeah. But on this fourth side, because there's three sides of music, the fourth side is not playable. Okay? And here is why. And it's, if you get this, I don't know if you can see that. Boy, it's reflecting.
Oh, okay, yeah, the tire marks there?
Yeah, it's a tire marks. Yeah, tire marks. So it's like someone, you put it in the middle of the road, and someone rode there,
Yeah.
took the car
cool.
and went over it. So yeah, it's tire marks on that line. That's kind of cool. And the center label on this one here on this side looks like a wheel, right? which is cool. So it's kind of unique in that way. And it says next to the tire mark, it's hard to see, but the tire mark itself says Cars on it. Boy, see if you can get that. I think if I hold it the right way here. Shoot. Can you see?
Oh yeah. There you go.
You see
Cars,
it now?
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's part of the trademark is the name Cars. So that's a kind of clever kind of thing to do. It's cool. And the other good thing about it too is this thing is it sounds great. It's a good, I think probably I guess soundboard recording. And I'm just trying to see who produced it. Engineered Jim Hillenbrand. Produced by the Cars, mixed by K. Tomsick and the Cars.
I was curious, Ken.
Yeah.
Is this an actual, was this like a recording that they did and kept in their vault kind of thing, or was this like a radio broadcast that maybe they got the recording of and then made a proper release of, or?
I think they had it, but you know what? That's good. I should have done some more background on that. I guess I don't know that. I'll have to look at it.
The reason why I'm asking that is because I know that there's a lot of bootleg records, for example, floating around that are from the Agora. I know there's a Rush one, there's a Kiss one from the Agora.
Yeah.
There's lots of ones. So I'm wondering if maybe whenever these bands came through that area, then maybe the local radio did a broadcast of it, and maybe these bands got recordings of it, right?
Yeah. That's the one thing about this is at least with what comes with it here, it doesn't say. It just says it was recorded at the Agora Ballroom, Cleveland, Ohio, July 18th, 1978. And it was on a Tuesday even. They had that. But that must have been the set list the original set list that they wrote down. So they have that. Good question on that. I should have looked that up. But hey, for the people out there who want to know, you can go out there and look it up and see where the original recording came from, whether it was part of a live radio show. I think it's before they became big, so I'm gonna guess it's not a radio program, but you never know. It could have been a local thing, a local radio for in their area where they used to play clubs and stuff a lot. So I don't know.
Possible.
Yeah.
All right, great.
So that's my pick. Since it's, like I said, Record Store Day is coming up, people.
Yes, it is. So I'm curious to see what all of us will be picking, because I'm sure there'll be tons of videos for that after that day hits. So I'm looking forward to seeing what people come back with. So that's a great pick, Ken. I know that lots of people are into the Cars, and these kind of releases are always interesting to see, especially for people who are not as big collectors of it like me, who would be interested in this, because I'm very into live albums myself, so that would be something that would tickle my fancy, as they say. Now that leads in perfectly into my middle pick. Now the funny thing is, my middle pick is something that came out in 1995. Now originally this record came out long before that, in 73. Now I got this version of it, and I'll explain why I picked this one right now. I love live albums, obviously. And this is a Mobile Fidelity release. Okay. Now, Mobile Fidelity is known for doing some very awesome sounding releases. And with this album, because I have like 6-7 different variations of this record, I wanted to try to get the best sounding one possible of this, because you're talking about a record that was recorded at the Royal Festival Hall in London. Okay. So actually, I got to correct myself, because it didn't come out in 73. It just came out it must have came out after, because it says right here that it was recorded on January 18th, 1974. So that must have came out later in 74 or maybe even 75. Now, having a huge orchestra involved in this as well, both symphony orchestra and choir, you really want to try to get the best sounding possible recording of this
Sure.
to really bring out everything in it. Now, the record that I'm talking about is Rick Wakeman's Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Mm.
Now, I had been looking for this for a long while, and while I did find it a couple of times, I didn't want to have to remortgage the house to get it. Right?
Yeah.
So, here's the back of it. It is numbered, I
That's
believe.
numbered, yeah.
Yeah. I believe the number is special limited edition number 1238
Out
of it.
who knows how many.
I don't really know.
Probably
It
not
says
so
it's
many.
half speed mastered,
Mhm.
mastered from the original master recordings, specially plated and pressed on 200 grams of high definition vinyl. Mastered from the original tapes, and I'm not 100% sure who did this. I
Robo
did try to
mastered
look
it.
up.
Mhm.
Yeah, I did try to look up the information on various different sites and found nothing as far as that goes. But I can tell you this, having had many copies of this, whether it's the promo copy, Canadian copy, US copy, UK copy, this one by far is the best sounding one. Now, you have all kinds of stringed instruments. You have a narrator who's telling the story as well. And where I really noticed where this record shines is when you listen to it on headphones. I mean, I'm lucky I have a decent system, so I can also benefit from blasting it and listening to it that way. But on headphones, you can really get the sense of the hall. That's what I really like how they did this.
Okay.
You can, when you listen to it and you close your eyes and he starts
ambience,
talking,
in the hall.
yeah, you can hear his voice kind of echoing in the hall as he's talking.
Mhm.
And you can even hear every once in a while while he's talking, saying, "As they went through the caverns," you can hear every once in a while like a little ding, ding, like somebody trying to tune up their violin or something.
Oh, wow.
So you can hear all those little kind
Yeah.
of nuances that were kind of missed actually on some of the other pressings because they weren't probably as detailed
Yeah.
in the masterings. Like, this is the booklet that came with it.
Okay.
I've been fortunate that in every pressing that I've ever found of this, I luckily found ones that always had these books in it. And that's one thing that I like about Rick Wakeman's releases, as he usually has these kind of booklets in there. I mean, the King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table has a beautiful, like, 12-page story booklet that goes with it
Well,
as well. And I mean, that's one thing I like about these kind of records is I like things that tell a story and stuff like that. This also is with usually all these Mobile Fidelity releases, these kind of
yeah, they give you the. Yep.
hype it up kind of thing. And in here is the actual vinyl itself. Hold this out. It is very weighty. You can tell it is a 200-gram record. And let me just see really quickly if it has anything on here. SK2. SR. Oh, SR. Stan Rickard. There we go.
Dan Rickard? Okay.
Yeah, he's a very known mastering guy, Stan Rickard, and then 2 underneath his name. And it's funny because I was just listening to an episode of Tales from the Dead Wax,
Yeah.
and they were talking about Mobile Fidelity, and they're
it.
talking about Stan Rickard, saying that that's his signature, SR over 2, and the 2 means it's a half-speed master.
I think I've seen that before.
So
On
there you go
something
with there's the label.
Okay. Yeah, that looks like your Vigil Mass recording kind of label.
And you'll notice that, of course, there's 2 songs per side, a la Rick Wakeman style songwriting. 20 minutes, so 42 minutes or so of music between 4 songs. That's my kind of songwriting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, again, the reason why I picked this is because my love of live albums, I really think that Mobile Fidelity, while they sometimes now been getting a bit of, I don't know, I'm not going to say bad commentary, but I've noticed that a few people have been saying that they think that the Mobile Fidelity pressings have too much of a smiley face EQ master to them, that there's way too much emphasis on bass and top end, and some of the mid end kind of suffers for it. And that might be true for some pressings, but I don't find that at all. I mean, especially when it comes to an orchestra, you can't drop out that much mid in it. You have so many strings and voices.
Yeah.
If you did that, it would be impossible to pick out anything. And like I said, I'm pretty sure you can almost hear somebody sneezing in the orchestra at one point.
Probably.
It was so nicely done. So, I highly recommend this release if you're interested in getting this. It's not cheap, obviously.
Yeah.
I lucked out when I got this. It was on sale, and I believe it was like still like $60 or something like that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've seen them going for a lot more. Even on Discogs, I've seen them going for much higher, like 80, 90 almost. Some of them are going for $100 even, right? But it is, I'm going to say it is worth the money. I mean, if you're going to drop that much money on a record, make sure you get something of this quality, because I think you can, not only in its sound quality, but in its resale. I mean, if years later you want to sell it, you will make your money back on these types of albums. That's for damn certain.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's my middle of the road kind of middle years selection.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I have a couple of those
Mobile Fidelity.
Mobile Fidelities. One I just got just this year, which was the Linda Ronstadt one. That just came
nice.
out. They just released this year. And then I have some old. I know I have a Steve Miller Band one too. I think from Fly Like an Eagle. But anyway, if you go back or you didn't buy it originally, those ones tend to go up in price. That's for sure. They're kind of more scarce.
Yeah.
But yeah, good pick. All right, so my middle years, whatever, pressing, somewhere in between the old and the new. I think you'll like this one, Mark.
Okay. Cool.
This one is something I got pretty recently to add to my collection. And what it is it's a Rush album.
Oh, nice.
It is Hemispheres, Rush Hemispheres. I remember buying it right when it came out, the original vinyl, when it came out. But the reason I got this one here, and this is, is the gatefold, you've seen it, Mark, and all that, lyrics and stuff in there. The deal about this one is it's on, it's on Anthem.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
Which, so it's not a U.S. release.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Canadian release, manufactured in Canada, your hometown there, buddy. and the deal about this one is, here it is. I'll get it out here. I'll get the vinyl out. This is the reason I got it. It's
yes.
the red vinyl version of Hemispheres, which they only did, I guess, in Canada, I believe.
Yeah.
Right? As a
Correct.
So let's get to the nice label. The two halves of the brain. And you know what? I don't think I've played it yet. Unless I got it really just recently. But I haven't played it, and I'm guessing it's going to sound pretty good. You probably have one and played it, right?
Yes.
The vinyl is, it's not the heaviest weight. It's not horribly light either, but it looks good here. But with it being, colored vinyl, it's kind of translucent.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably not too many, it's probably pretty well a good piece of vinyl. Where it's not junky, reused, black recycled kind of stuff. I would expect it to be pretty clean.
Yeah, so. It definitely is. I mean, I know that I have a copy and mine sounds fantastic.
And I don't know. Do you know who mastered these anyway? I don't know.
I'm not certain. I mean, I know a lot of the Rush stuff at this time was done by TLC, which is the lacquer channel in Toronto, ironically, which is also the place that I did my record. But yeah, they done a lot of it. George Graves did a lot of those pressings at that time, but I'm not 100% certain if he did this one because it seems like it was almost a specialty press,
It says
almost, you know.
like almost like a semi bullseye kind of thing, but it could be like a C around something else.
If it is a bullseye, that's capital, I believe.
Okay, so master that cap. Oh, okay. Yeah, it looks like a bullseye kind of look to it with an open end on a little bit on one side to make it maybe a C. So okay, yeah. So that's my pick, and hey, Hemispheres is one of Russia's greatest achievements, um, and you know with the full Cygnus, book two, and then the second side with like Lavia Strangiato, uh,
Yeah,
epic instrumental, the trees, and so on. It's just a great circumstances. So it's just a great. I used to listen to that thing over and over again when I first got it, and I still love it today.
do you think that it's probably one of your favorite Rush records?
I'd say it's one of my favorite ones. It is the problem is Rush has a lot of real good stuff, so it's hard to pick a
Mm.
favorite, right? I mean, I always loved 2112, of course, and
Yeah,
I mean, even I was just listening the other day. I was listening even to the first album because you knew I got the archives
yeah,
again, promo edition of that. But yeah, that and Fly By Night, great albums. I like Crest of Steel. You know,
yeah.
Crest of Steel is one of the albums that you I had to grow more on me. The more
Mhm.
now, it's kind of a better album than I thought of it when I first listened to it.
Yeah.
But great
Well,
album. This one's a great album.
yeah. I mean, a lot of people were of that. I mean, that record didn't do well at all. I mean, considering that Fly By Night did really well for them, it got them a Juno, it won gold and stuff like that. And it is my favorite Rush album of all time, Fly By Night. And I was I like Crest of Steel, but it didn't do well for them. I mean, the
No,
tour
dude.
was actually called the Down to Tubes tour,
Yeah,
because it's so shitty for them. So,
yeah, yeah.
but over the years, people have kind of it has grown on people, much like how the Elder has grown on Kiss fans
That's
over the
true.
years.
Right.
Crest of Steel is kind of the same in that way. So, interesting pick. And one last question about it
Yeah.
before we move on, unless you have something else to talk about with that, is as a collector of vinyl and you living in the United States, did you find this pressing difficult to find?
Well, yeah, it's not in any. I didn't see any local, of course, record stores, or it's not, and it's not something. Well, wait a minute. Maybe it was a local record store. Yes, it was. It was actually uh, bought from Rasputin Records,
Mm.
which is a chain. I don't know if it was only in California, but there's still a number of them around here. And I think it came out of the Berkeley,
I
California
got you.
store. They have an online store, and that's where I saw it. I'll check there every now and then, and I was going looking at the Rush stuff that they had out there, and I saw, oh, red vinyl. I didn't even know that this one was. And I think I compared it to Discogs, right? Because that would be
Hmm.
the other way I can get it easily, I guess. And it was better priced and probably better shape on the Rasputins. So that's where I picked that up from.
Great.
Somehow it made it to the U.S. Probably from Canada. Who knows how it got here, but it was here.
Yeah, probably from someone's collection, most likely.
Sold their collection back to
Yeah,
the used record store. Yep.
exactly. Well, I of course will applaud you for that fine pick, being Canadian and being a Rush fan. So, very great pick, my friend.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're on to our last picks, which are our oldest ones. Now, this record that I selected has a special place for me, mainly because this is a record that I acquired because my father passed away. This was from his record collection, and I know that he made it very clear that once he was gone, that the only person he could imagine who would want these records would be me. So I went through them. Sure, there's a lot of things in there that I just wasn't interested in, but I'm keeping it mainly because there is reasons to keep it historically, and there's a lot of like Slovak records and stuff like that in there, and amongst his Johnny Cash and his Elvis. He has a lot of Elvis Presley stuff in there. But the record that I took is a record that was released in 1959, actually. And this is the actual 1959 pressing of it, believe it or not. And it was on the Audio Fidelity Records label, which I will read directly here. Audio Fidelity Records was a record company out of New York City, most active during the 1950s and 60s. They are best known for having produced the first mass-produced American stereophonic long-play record in November of 1957.
Yeah.
Although this was not available to the general public until March of the following year. So it's very interesting that this label is almost, it has the identical name to Audio Fidelity that now does those releases on CD, those old discs and stuff like that. They did go bankrupt in 1997, apparently. So I'm guessing that maybe they took it over or bought the name and continued doing it that way. Now, my father was heavily into classical music. He was even in the choir. And believe it or not, you would never guess this hearing my singing voice, but my father was a bass voice in choir. He could hit so low, like it was unbelievable how low he could sing. And it's funny, my father's choir that he was in actually did have a vinyl record done, so I do have a vinyl album of his singing.
Cool.
So I always be kind of keeping that close to my heart, but this record is very interesting because it's kind of like a best of classical. It's called Overture.
Okay.
And it has like a bunch of different stuff on here. I mean, you have Mozart, you have Mozart, you have Brahms, you have Beethoven, Verdi, and you have Wagner, right? This is done by the Virtuoso Symphony of London.
Okay.
And this thing is like older than dirt. Now the thing is, my father, when he liked something, he tended to keep it in very good condition. I mean, for a record that's really
in good shape.
This is in really fantastic shape. And what's even more impressive is I took the record out. Okay, now I did change the sleeve because it was really
you're right.
crappy. It was like falling apart, but very interesting label on this.
That's nice. Yeah. Silver and black. It's nice. Interesting.
Very kind of classy looking.
Classy, clean. Yeah.
And I took it out and I put it on my stereo, and I haven't even done my spin clean on it yet. I just took it out, took my lint brush, cleaned it, took my anti-static, put it on, and Ken, I'm telling you, I put my stereo onto about maybe half, and it literally shook the room. This is so well pressed.
Wow.
It sounds so good. I was impressed. Like, I mean, it was like it literally sounded like there was members of the orchestra in my bass. It was. It's really, really well done. And I mean, a lot of the times when people think of old records like this, they usually think, oh, it sounds like A-hole, and it's how could it sound good and stuff like that. But it definitely sounds very, very good. The interesting thing about this too is that it says on the front here. I don't know if you'll be able to see that at all, but
The component series. Yeah.
there's a let me see, where is that? Over here, underneath the first
First.
here, you'll see made in Canada. See how it
Okay.
says that?
Yeah, print
But
Canada.
when I looked it up, there's only a U.S. Listing for this.
Oh, really?
Now, what I'm thinking happened is that Canada just got the U.S. stuff, like they approved it and printed their own covers here for it,
Probably. Yeah.
and essentially
Let's
it's probably just the same pressing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Probably.
yeah, and it sounds really, really good. I mean, I don't know how much of a classical music fan you are. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I started getting into classical music once I started discovering that people played classical guitar and could transpose full symphonies onto guitar, and
Right.
that piqued my interest. And then I went back and started getting into the whole orchestra thing.
No, I do like classical music. Not that I go out of my way to always listen to it or anything, but sometimes I do. Sometimes you just feel like it. My preference, I was buying some. I remember I kind of got more into it after. Remember that movie Amadeus, right?
Yeah.
Mozart. I was really getting into the Mozart stuff. Though, gosh, you can't beat stuff that, is Beethoven and Brahms and Chopin and so and on and on. There's a lot of great stuff. Sometimes it's a mood thing, right? So,
Yeah.
but it's just a pleasing music, where when I first got into rock and roll, I was like, you don't. He's like, classical. What the heck,
Yeah. It's not cool.
It's not cool, but it's actually good music is good music, as I always say.
Yeah.
If it's good, it's good. It doesn't matter what style. It's well written. Performed well, sounds good. It's good. So,
Exactly.
but that's a great. But now that one that you have, it said stereo. So stereo was really a new thing
Yeah.
to press on albums at that time period.
I'm thinking too that that's probably one of the things that was sort of
The
so it's like a thing that was very specialized with this
I
whole
think
audio
so.
fidelity label, because I know stereo for a fact wasn't very common at all at this point. I mean,
Right.
who knows if it's even true stereo? Could it be mono,
Oh.
two mono channels, but who knows?
It's possible,
I don't,
yeah.
I don't know for sure, but there's a lot of, I should have read into that more here, because it does say here there's technical data right here on the back. If you look at it, here it says technical data.
Technical
here.
okay. The frequency and
then-
stuff. Wow.
And it says all kinds of stuff, that this high fidelity stereophonic recording was produced featuring the Frey stereophonic curtain of sound technique. So it is actually a stereo recording, right? When heard on a balanced playback system, the elements or musicians on the recording will be reproduced in the exact locations directionally as at the original performance. So they had a kind of curtain system where they hung certain things and they recorded it that way so that you can get the
Okay.
positioning of the orchestra.
Interesting.
So obviously, it must be a proper
I'm
stereo
sure it is.
recording here,
Yeah.
because it says here right here, and it gives you all the facts and all kinds of stuff here. The masters were cut with an automatic Scully record lathe mounted on a Westrex 4045 cutter with special feedback electronic circuitry driven by a custom-built 200-watt amplifier. So they go into great detail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Like the people that buying it are like, I don't know what the heck that means.
yeah,
That's funny though.
but I mean,
Yeah.
but for people
Wow.
like us now, who are audiophiles and love that, this kind of
it's
stuff
kind of
is gold.
interesting. It is
you know?
interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm very pleased to have this record, and I think that we might have a couple of other ones down there too. And I discovered we have a couple of really old Elvis pressings as well, and we have
Oh,
a
yeah.
couple of living stereo albums too. Like, I don't know if you've seen those ones where they at the very top here there'll be a black band and they'll say living stereo on here.
Mm-hmm.
Those are apparently like the albums to get. They're apparently one of the best sounding records that you could probably get as far as older pressings. So, I mean, it's interesting to look at these things.
Now that you say that, I'm going to pull out something here because it's actually another copy of the one I'm going to show, and
Okay.
it might as well do it because you just talked about it. So let's do that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So that was a good pick. And another interesting thing about your pick is it's the same year, I think. You said 59, right?
Yeah.
And mine is the same year as your pick.
Wow.
So that's funny that we do that sometimes, whether it's the album or whatever. But we got a matching year on our old
Ranger.
album. Yes, exactly. So here is my oldest pick. And what it is it's special to me as part of the artist because I really love this artist. And though I prefer more of listening to the 70s, his 70s music, but he came out started in around 59, 58. And then when the Beatles came, he kind of more or less disappeared and just became more of a songwriter for other artists. But then came back, became a big hit in the early 70s. So, having said that, this album here, my album pick is Neil Sedaka,
Ah.
and this is called Rock. This is his first official album as Neil Sedaka, just by himself, in 1959. What this has on it, and this is a mono version. The deal about it says LPM. LPM. The M stands for mono. So that's him in front of the jukebox. This is pretty good quality. I wanted to get something.
Yeah.
Has some writing on there, but hey, you got to live with it.
Yeah.
On the album, but it has songs like his first real hit was "The Diary." He also had on here "Stupid Cupid," which Connie Francis made a big hit out of. He wrote that, and then "I Go Ape" is another pretty big song off of this. At least it was a bigger deal in the UK. Really like that song, and I like that song. I Go Ape. It's kind of a Jerry Lee Lewis type, really rocking on the piano.
Yeah. 1 foot on the piano kind of thing. Like.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, Sedaka was he was training as a concert pianist. Before he got in and said, well, he wanted to do rock and roll instead. So.
Yeah.
So this came out in 59. I'll pull out the vinyl here. The other thing about it, just quickly, is the Diary got to number 14 on the U.S. charts. And I Go Ape on the U.S. didn't do too well here, 42, but in the U.K. it got to number 9.
Wow.
Which is pretty
Top
good.
10.
Yeah. So it's a good album though. It's just good old rock and roll stuff. So let me pull out the vinyl here and bring up this video.
My father was a big Neil Sedaka listener too. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we have stuff downstairs in the collection from him too.
Oh, yeah,
so.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
So here it is. This is on the RCA Victor label. And there's actually a writing on that one, but it's pretty good shape. This one.
Oh, the original with the dog.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. So that's the label. I don't know if anything else notable on it, but it's pretty clean. It says long play, 33 1/3. So that's that. Now, having to do with your other deal here. Oh gosh, get this put away here. When you're talking about the living stereo.
Yeah.
Here we go. This is interesting too for another factor, but here's the same album.
Ah.
Living Stereo. And
Yes.
the deal is here. Remember the other one said M. This
Yep.
says LSP,
Yes.
Living Stereo Play. I don't know what the P stands
Pressing.
for. Pressing. Yeah, there you go. That's probably what it is. So it's the same album. Same. It's this one's not in the greatest shape. And I think the label.
You mean the album is not in the greatest shape, or the cover? You mean?
The cover is not as good as the other cover. I think the album is pretty okay shape. It looks the same basically, except it says Living Stereo on the vinyl pressing. It's the same dog kind of thing.
It's one of those things I would really love to hear a comparison of. Like, I know obviously
Yeah,
one's
yeah.
mono, one's stereo, but I mean, the whole living stereo thing is so well regarded. I'd love to hear how the quality of that play.
Yeah, the other thing it says down here, it says, important notice, this is a true stereophonic record specifically designed to be played only on phonographs equipped for stereophonic reproduction. This is interesting. This record will also give outstanding monaural performance on many conventional high fidelity phonographs by a replacement of the cartridge. Is that
Yeah.
weird? Yeah,
Yeah.
so see your local dealer or serviceman. And the other thing, it has a sticker on the front here, too, which is interesting. I don't know if you can. Oh, no.
Back out a bit.
I'll read it.
Yeah.
It says Miracle Surface. This record contains the revolutionary new anti-static ingredient 317X it's called, which helps keep the record dust free, helps prevent surface noise, helps ensure faithful sound reproduction on living stereo records. So that's that's interesting.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's funny that you brought it up. I knew I had this copy too of it. The other one was mono. But again, this is just I'm a big fan again of Neil Sedaka's work, and unfortunately he's still around. But I think this is gonna be his last year of any kind of touring. But it's just good pop, well written pop music, and that's late '60s, early '70s music, or late '60s. I'm sorry, late '50s, early '60s music, right there.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, he came back later and became a pretty big hit with singer-songwriter era kind of kicked in.
Yeah. Well, that's a great pick. I mean, I was very pleased though to see that you had both a mono and a living stereo version of that. That's incredible. I mean, having, like I said, having a living stereo downstairs of a couple of other records myself, I'm very curious now to dive deeper into this whole living stereo thing, because I know in a couple of record stores I go to, they have quite a few living stereo albums available, like Elvis Presley ones, and I'd be very curious to check those out, because I do have some older pressings of Elvis, and I've gotten into that whole comparison thing. I mean, I've gotten neck deep into this whole analyzing what is the difference between this pressing and this, and what's the differences. So I mean, I'm very interested in that. So I'm very that piqued my interest immensely when you pulled out that living stereo pressing of that. So thank you for that. And I am curious. I mean, if you ever put it on and listen to it, I'd be interested to hear your comments on what you think of it.
Yeah, I have played it, but I'm gonna play it. What I'll do is I'll play it back to back, like the first song or whatever, and see what the difference is. How it came out between the mono and the stereo, how it sounds, which one maybe I like better, or which one sounds louder or not louder, than the other ones. Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Because some people, I mean, sure, people might be saying now when they're watching, saying, "Well, duh, guys, of course, mono and stereo is going to be different." Yeah, that's true. But what you don't seem to understand is that there's a lot of circumstances where people like the mono over the stereo. For example, like I'm looking at your Beatles records there on the back, and that's a classic example of a band where a lot of people like the mono pressings better than the stereo.
Yeah, exactly. And some were recorded or intended or originally mastered to be mono. on mono records, and then later they broke it up into stereo or did whatever. But so yeah, it depends on what the true intention was. Like John Lennon, I believe, had said that Sgt. Pepper's. He goes, if you're going to listen to that Sgt. Pepper's, you want to listen to it in mono.
Yeah.
Because he says that sounds, to him, he said that was the right way to hear it.
Yeah, I have this book, the Beatles recording. I think it's like a really thick book, like yay thick.
Yeah, I probably have the same
one.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, and it goes through everything about it, and it says right there in writing that they would spend a whole day on the mono mix of a song on Sgt. Pepper and spend maybe 45 minutes after they were done. George Martin there would just do a 45-minute stereo mix of it. So the attention to detail is much greater on the mono than the stereo.
Yeah. Agree. Yep.
Yeah. Well, great. That was a really fantastic episode this time. And I'm hoping we can probably do another one of these again, because I think it turned out really good. I'd be curious to see what other relics and new things that we can get in our collection and discuss them again. So yeah, I'm very pleased with that. Hopefully everybody watching learned a little bit of something from these pressings that we had, and leave your comments if you have some kind of living stereo records that you have in your collection that maybe we should take a look at or listen to. I'd be curious on them, so leave a comment for us. And I think that's it. Do you have anything else to add before we leave, or?
Nothing else. It was a great show, and I enjoyed seeing your picks. They were pretty cool.
Thank you, and I enjoyed checking out yours. They were excellent as well. And on behalf of myself and Ken, I hope that everybody out there has a safe and happy Easter weekend. Be careful out there. People sometimes drive crazy on long weekends and holidays. So be safe out there, so we can see you all again on our next episode, which will be again before the end of April for sure. We'll do another one of these for sure. So until then, this is Mark Anthony K and Mr. Ken Keenan saying bye for now.